Hi everyone, this is Lisa Wolfe, and this is your friendly, helpful, hopefully helpful instructional video for exercise assignment number 3 on form and tradition criticism. So first, a few things up front. One, when you submit your assignment, please include your name in your file title so that when Harold and I download all of your papers, it's easier for us to keep track of them so that they don't all say exegesis assignment. Please put your name in that title. The next thing is that before you embark on exercise assignment number 3 and before you watch the rest of this video, you should first print out a copy of the exegesis assignment number 3 or put it in a little video next to me here. You also need to print out and read all the way through your exegesis guide, which is posted on Moodle. So that'll be an important step as well. And then the last reading you need to do is Hayes and Holiday, chapters 6 and 7, and a few pages out of Coogan and Chapman that are outside of your regular reading for this week. Pages 376 through 379 will help you with the form criticism portion of this assignment. So if you have all that in hand, then you are ready to go, and if not, click pause and come back to this after you have finished those things. So the first part of the assignment is form criticism, and you will have read in the chapter from Hayes and Holiday that form criticism basically has two parts to it. One is genre, a word that means a type of literature. So what type of literature are you dealing with in your pericope? And the other part of form criticism is a little German phrase, Sitzemleben, which means life setting or situation in life. In other words, we're going to speculate on what kind of situation might have produced this literature and or in which it would have been used. When would people possibly have used this pericope that you are exegeting? So you are going to be looking at Psalm 136. Read it through. I'd suggest you read it in several translations and then consider the genre of it. Now know that for Psalm form criticism on the Psalms, there are technical categories for genre. And by technical, one of the things I mean is that the title of the category does not necessarily relate to what that means. So you really need to read the description in Hayes and Holiday and in Coogan and Chapman on the different psalm categories. That being said, I also want to warn you that scholars sometimes disagree about how to categorize a particular psalm in terms of genre. So what you need to do for us in the first half of that first page is to show us the verses in Psalm 136 that made you determine that it fits in the category you have selected, in the genre category you have selected. Now, there is a little bit of the chapter in Hayes and Holiday that discusses psalm categories, but it is in a little less detail than what you will see in Coogan and Chapman. The second part of this is to discuss the Sitzemleben, the life setting in which the psalm, from which the psalm may have arisen or in which it may have been used. And there again, use Hayes and Holiday, especially page 107, and Coogan and Chapman, and two scholarly commentaries or articles, which you need to show us what you consulted in your footnotes and works cited at the end. Your works cited does not count towards your page count. And those that research you do of those other scholarly commentaries or articles will help you think more clearly about Sitzemleben as well as genre. So make sure you show your work, show us where you drew on your information from your research, and then of course we will assume that whatever else is your own work based on the reading from Hayes and Holiday and Coogan and Chapman. Your second part of exegesis assignment 3 is tradition criticism, and this is in Hayes and Holliday chapter 7. The idea of tradition criticism is to follow a tradition through various parts of the Bible, in this case, of course, the Hebrew Bible, and the goal is to try and hypothesize about the prehistory of that tradition. What might be the kernel of tradition that we can see as a commonality in a bunch of different places. Now here I'm having you look at sort of a competing tradition, different views around the question, can one see God and live? And this, you will notice, it has some relevance to some of the work you did on your last exegesis assignment, can you see God and live? And so what you need to do is go through and read all of the references that are listed there in 2A, and then reflect on that. This part, we're not asking you to do research. We are asking you to hypothesize based on your studies of the course and your close reading of the text. So this is your chance to shine in reflecting on the text and doing your own exegetical work on tradition criticism based on what you read in Hayes and Holliday and what you're reading in the biblical text. You only have one page, so you're limited in how far you can go with this, but give us your best shot there. And remember, of course, tell us what book, chapter, and verse you are looking at when you make a statement. So if you say in this verse you cannot see God and live, make sure you tell us which verse that is so we can find it easily. The last part of exegesis assignment number 3 is the first draft of your exegesis proposal. And for this, you must do some library time. In fact, before you do exegesis assignment 3, you really need to do some library time. Schedule a day for yourself, and it will make the rest of your semester go so much more smoothly. That way you can accomplish the research for part 1 on the Psalm, and you can accomplish the research for part 3 on your exegesis, your first draft of your exegesis proposal. So when you go to the library, you need to have already selected one of the passages that we gave you as options for your exegesis paper. We gave you 4 options there. Read them all, select the one that is of most interest to you for whatever reason. Maybe it's the one you like least, and so you want to find out more about it. Once you have selected that, then you need to go through the steps of the exegesis guide for the first time, and this is, when I say the steps of the exegesis guide, I'm primarily referring here to pages 2, 3, and the top of 4. Page 1 tells you how to structure your paper in the end. I moved that to page 1 because so many people weren't getting to that when I had it at the back of the guide. So this tells you how to structure your paper at the end. But your first steps in exegesis are pages 2, 3, and the top of 4. And let me just say that these are the steps of exegesis that you will be using anytime you are preparing a sermon or a Bible study or a paper or anything related to exegetical work on the Bible. These are the basics, and what is in here is intended to walk you through the steps that you are learning in Hayes and Holliday. So there are a couple of things in here that we haven't done yet, but we trust that you can give them a shot and try them out and do your best on them. Now that, at this point, is all background work. Take notes. This is leading you towards your final paper. You're not going to put that work on this last page of your paper. That work in pages 2, 3, and 4 of the exegesis guide that's on your selected pericope is simply going to prepare you to choose the right reference works to put on the bibliography, and that is page 3 of this assignment. So you go through those steps on pages 2, 3, and 4, and I want to highlight a couple of things that we haven't really done before. One of them is preparing an outline of the pericope, and I want to note a couple of things here. First, it is an outline that moves from the beginning to the end of the passage. So you don't pick 4 things out of the passage and say, oh, these are all about the same thing, we'll put those in Roman numeral 1. No, Roman numeral 1 is the first chunk of the passage. The idea of the outline is to structurally divide the passage so you know, oh, the first verse, for instance, stands alone. It's an introduction. And then the second through the 8th verse are one set of verses and they're doing a different thing. And the 9th through the 15th verse are doing a different thing. So somebody can easily glance at your outline and say, oh, there are 3 major sections of this pericope, and then you may subdivide them in some way, and you're going to come up with a title for each section. You may start out with a copy of the whole passage and group it that way, but the final outline that you prepare for your paper is not going to contain the whole text. That is not appropriate. What you do is prepare a title and say which verses are included. You're not going to include your outline in this paper, though. That's part of your preparation. You want to use that draft outline and keep it because you'll need it for your final paper. But for now, you're doing that as preparation work. You're working through all of these steps on pages 2 and 3, including word study, which you've practiced by now. Notice at the bottom of page 3, small Roman numeral 7 talks about looking for different sources that may be bumping up against each other, so you might see a seam there. This will come up in Hayes and Holiday in redaction criticism, and so that's why that seems a little new to you. You forge ahead, follow the instructions as closely as you can, and get through to the top of page 4. That is all background work for your exegesis. This is helping you prepare your final exegesis paper, but you're not including this work yet. What that work is helping you to do is number 3D on your exegesis assignment number 3, which is to prepare your central exegetical question or questions. All of these steps are helping to lead you to your central exegetical question or questions. And once you have those, then you're really prepared to do your library work, your research. Because what you want to do is let your research be guided by what is essentially a research question, your central exegetical question or questions. What am I looking for? What do I care about here? What am I interested in? There are a number of things anybody could do with any of these passages. What are you going to focus on and why? That's your central exegetical question. And you take that question to your research so that when you come up with, note, 8 total items at least for your bibliography, those are items that are going to help you answer those central exegetical questions. Now, please note on 3E, you're going to have 4 or more critical commentaries, 4 or more additional resources such as articles, monographs, that's just a fancy word for a book on a particular topic, monographs or Bible dictionaries. We really encourage you to use Bible dictionaries. So if you've decided, oh, I need to do a word study on this, then include an entry from a Bible dictionary on that word. So that will make up your bibliography of 8. And this is an annotated bibliography. So you include the bibliographical reference according to Turabian's guidelines. And then below that, in 2 single-spaced sentences or so, you're going to describe exactly how that reference work will help you answer your central exegetical question. It should not be a general annotation. In other words, it should not just be, this is a Bible commentary and it addresses many issues about this passage. That is too general. It needs to be more specific so that you can say this commentary or this article or this book or this dictionary entry is going to help me answer my question, which I just wrote up here for you, in this way. So you have to have not just collected these titles, but you have to have read them closely enough so that you can tell us in your annotation how they relate to your central exegetical question. So that 3rd page, you have a bunch of background work for it, but only 1 page you're submitting to us. At the top, it's going to say, here's my pericope that I chose out of the 4 options. Here's my central exegetical question or questions with a brief explanation, and then your 8 bibliographical references. If that takes slightly more than 1 page, that's fine, but you need to keep it brief. We get that that's a challenge. That is part of the challenge of this paper. So I think that should give you all that you need for this paper. Please feel free to post questions in the Ask the Instructor discussion thread on Moodle, or use email or what have you. We will be more than happy to field questions. We'd rather do that up front ahead of time than telling you afterwards that this wasn't quite right, that kind of thing. Remember, this assignment is due October 30th. Remember, schedule a library day for yourself, and happy Bible studying and happy fall break, everyone. Thank you.